I'm Dana Denha, and you're watching FYI. For over 5 decades, trains have been signaling the Ann Arbor area as travelers hop on for a tour of the many varieties of model trains.
Passengers had their tickets ready as they boarded the annual train show and sale at Saline Middle School.
We have about 100 different vendors come in. We fill up over 300 tables. We have several layouts and even a train you can ride on. That's a large-scale train. It's referred to as live steam.
We have this layout. It's a traveling layout. It consists of modules. The members build individual modules. They all have a standard interface so that we can plug them into one another, and we create layouts like this.
I am debuting a new building. It's called the Cadillac Tower from downtown Detroit. There's also the Griswold building. Mary Martha Stewart Chapel from the Henry Ford, Greenfield Village.
All the conductors share a desire for this childhood pastime thriving into adulthood.
Set dressing makes all the difference in the world. So each and every one of our members adds something exceptionally valuable when they come together as a collective.
For me, it's the artwork. I'm in this for the art. I do a lot of the scenery. I build scenery, I build buildings, I do painting, I do things like that.
I think there's just an inherent appeal about trains, and it was a toy that was available. And there's nostalgia that's part of it at this point. People will buy trains that remind them of their childhood, and it's tangible. It's not the app on the phone where you're buying something with coins and then you said, oh, I'm kind of done with that. The trains are still there, and you can go back to them and recreate stuff.
The 52nd annual train show and sale will take place at Saline Middle School on February 19 and 20. For more, visit a2trainshow.com. Stay tuned, and we'll be back with more in exactly 30 seconds. Washtenaw Community College has a world-class nursing education program with state-of-the-art medical equipment. Watch the unveiling of this local education gem.
WCC cut the ribbon as they start their next chapter as a National Center of Excellence in Nursing Education.
Having this state-of-the-art simulation lab allows us to prepare our nursing students so they're ready to go out and work in the community. And the necessity of having a lab like this is students not only get clinical experience, but they practice before they go to clinical. They're actually working with human simulators that are very realistic.
This simulation even allows students to experience the miracle of birth.
In the control tower, control how far we want the contractions apart, what type of birth we want to have. We can have a breech birth, we can have a precipitous delivery. We can challenge the students with all kinds of difficult deliveries that they might see in the real world. And then they actually deliver the baby. It's very realistic. The baby actually comes out, and the students are there to assist the baby into the world.
Not only does WCC boast a top-notch teaching staff, they're dedicated to the success of students.
Once a student is admitted into our nursing programs, we want to do everything that we can to help keep them here. And sometimes that means helping them out with the cost of books, or helping them out with maybe daycare for their children. So anything we can do, we like to do to help keep those students in those seats and make sure that they're successful and they graduate.
Ann Arbor encourages residents to get involved in local government, and they offer a yearly program to learn about the inner workings of the city. Learn about the Ann Arbor Community Academy in this month's City Roundup in 60.
Hi, my name is Sarah Lanise with the City of Ann Arbor Clerk's Office. Today, I'm going to tell you about the Ann Arbor Community Academy. The Community Academy is a program where community members interested in the city's long-term plans and day-to-day operations have a chance to participate in interactive sessions with city staff across different departments. City staff hopes participants will be motivated to play a more active role in shaping the future of Ann Arbor after participating in this program. Graduates from our academy are highly involved in our community and currently serve on City Council, the City Planning Commission, the Public Art Commission, and as election inspectors. You can find more information, including how to sign up at a2gov.org/A2CA.
For far too long, live theater wasn't even an option, as we all kept safe in the comfort of our own homes. Now, with the world turning towards a new normal, PTV Productions is ready to fill those seats and bring the joy of laughter back to Riverside Arts Center with the British farce Jeeves at Sea. Joining me is Andy Jentzen, director of Jeeves at Sea. Welcome to the show, Andy. You know, I'd like to know a little bit more about you. Have you done acting? Have you done theater? What led you to directing Jeeves at Sea?
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you so much.
I'd like to know about you. What led you to theater? You know, have you been directing shows? Have you been an actor in the past?
Yes. I've done a lot of stuff with Ann Arbor Civic. I was in a couple of productions of them. I actually did some directing for them with some Eric Bogosian monologue things. One was Wake Up and Smell the Coffee. And I also was in a couple of productions with them. Most notably, the one that nobody wants to talk about, RUR, which was, I got to be killed by a robot in RUR, but nobody saw me being killed by a robot in RUR. But that's an inside joke amongst the Ann Arbor Civic Theater. But it's, so I've done a lot of stuff with those guys. And there was, I originally, about a year ago, presented the idea of doing Jeeves Intervenes, which is not Jeeves at Sea, but it maintains two of the main characters, Jeeves and Birdie. And it's about Aunt Agatha and all this. He's trying to avoid getting married. And we had almost got it presented. We got the stage all set up. The production was all finished. We had the stage done, and then the pandemic hit. So on the morning of the dress rehearsal, we had MSU cancel all their classes. So we knew that U of M was going to cancel in suit, and they did. They're going to cancel for the next day. So we only had one day to do the show. After rehearsing for like 6 weeks and getting through the whole process.
Wow, what a shame that I know this happened to a lot of people during that time, but like you put in so much work. It is so hard to be in a show, to put on a show, and then like to just be like, sorry.
Yeah, and we were so lucky though, because we were able to call a bunch of people who were going to come to the show. We called them up. They got 100 people to come to the show. So we put on one performance, and it was brilliant. People loved the show. It was brilliant. It was like, and I always say, even though it was one performance, it was sort of like, Jesus on the mound, only the people there knew what he said. So I always say it was the best show that Ann Arbor Civic ever put together. You got to find the 100 people who saw it, but it's the best show that Ann Arbor Civic put together.
Is that like a prequel or a sequel to the one you're doing now?
It's not a sequel. It's not. It's just this like Margaret Raythier. I can barely write her name. She decided to put together a series of plays for play scripts. And so she started off with a combination of P.G. Wodehouse stories. There was a whole series of short stories that P.G. Wodehouse did, written from like 1915 all the way to about 1936 in that area. And so she put together a series of them, like a combination of 2 or 3 stories with the characters of Birdie and Jeeves. And they would combine some of the characters in the Intervenes. Aunt Agatha was this crazy aunt that wanted to get Jeeves married, and because there's a whole baseline of like stories about who Birdie Wooster is and who Jeeves is. So it takes place like a parody of the Edwardian period, where there's like all these like landed gentry that had wealth but nothing to do. And P.G. Wodehouse would make a joke of it, but he said that these guys would hang out at the Drones Club. And the Drones Club is an inside joke where the drone is basically a male bee that lives off the labor of others. P.G. Woodhouse is so good at writing. You know, he has a great interest in doing comic type of material. And they said that he also did like a connection to sort of like stage, sort of like dialogue. I mean, one of the lines, there's some great lines in there. Like one of the lines from Stella in describing Birdie is that true, but I don't mind. What good are brains to a man? They only unsettle him. And Birdie says exactly. Some minds are like soup in a questionable restaurant, best left unstirred. So there's some really great lines, some really great writing by P.G. Woodhouse, and he's always dealing with the class struggle, but also the struggle between men and women, and it's all about, it's just very interesting humor. And Jeeves is like this great character who just is a very smart guy, and so he's always mechanizing stuff through to make sure that Birdie doesn't get into trouble, and Birdie's always getting into trouble. So it's really quite fun.
Are you a big fan of a British farce? Is that is that attractive to you? You know, it sounds like it.
Yeah. I as a kid, as I state, I blame Channel 56 for my affection of British comedy. And we used to start watching. I actually saw Monty Python first on CBC, Canadian broadcast, and then they started producing there. But then also, for a while there, we'd watch my dad and I would constantly watch Benny Hill together.
Oh yeah.
We'd always watch some of the things like All Creatures Great and Small. It isn't necessarily a comedy, but it had a lot of comic aspect to it. And my dad always gave me great appreciation for British humor. And I did work for a little time at a place called the Prairie Public TV, and I worked in there as a tape editor. And so they'd have these massive size tapes coming in from England that had The Good Neighbors, and they had Yes Minister and all that stuff. And I was responsible for transferring these massive tapes to small 1-inch tapes. It was all linear production, okay? I call it BD, before digital. And but I used to have to watch them all the way through, and I just enjoy it. It was like I shouldn't have been paid for it because I was watching these things as they went through. And it was quite fun, and I saw them mostly before anybody else saw them. I saw all these really great shows. So, and it was wonderful work. But I really enjoy the style of British humor. It's like it's all about not so much like the heavy slapsticks type of American humor. It's more about the lines, subtle humor. It has a lot of stuff to it.
Well, I mean, I think that makes you fit in with PTV so well because they love a farce. They're always putting on a farce.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They enjoy it. And I submitted it to them. They were going to try to do it last year, but we had to cancel last year because of COVID. And then they let me resubmit it again for this year. And I think we're ready to do it. We've been doing a lot of COVID procedures and stuff. The actors have had to basically rehearse with a mask on. We've done a lot of hand washing and stuff. We made sure that we do have some, if the procedure, if they expose to COVID, they would have to go into a test. We did have one scare like that thus far, but it was fine. And everybody's on board with this approach. And then PDD is going to have their own procedures about the audience. So everybody's going to have all 3 of their shots.
Oh, that's great. That was actually one of my questions. I was curious what they were because is this the first show back in person?
For PTD, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so the audience is going to have to wear masks too, because we're going to try and have the actors without masks as they're performing. So there'll be distance, but it's going to everybody's going to have their shots and their masks. And then there's going to be like a procedure of testing before they get onto the stage. and they're all willing to do this. And it's all a lot more than most people have to put up with. But, you know, so we're all kind of like, I know it's a bit of a new thing, and hopefully this will be the first and only time we have to do this.
Well, why don't you
But,
tell us about your cast, you know, the people that auditioned for the show, and
yeah.
now they're doing all this hard work. It's even harder for them, obviously, just from what you told me, and they're doing everything they need to do to put this show on for a live audience.
Oh yeah. Well, I got interesting too, is that first I want to talk about Veronica Long. Excuse me. Veronica Long is the reason I'm doing these shows. And she was in, she played the character Gertrude in Jeeves Intervenes, the one that was canceled last year. However, the reason I was able to find these is because of Veronica. So I was in a cast with her, and she sent out an email, and she said she was put on Jeeves Intervenes. And I had been looking for these plays. I couldn't find them since I saw the Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie on PBS doing Jeeves and Wooster. I love the stories, but I couldn't find them in a play form. And I saw that she was actually putting on the performance. And I called her to find out where to get them. And so she clued me into the play script group. And then I submitted that to Ann Arbor Civic. But she's the reason that we were actually doing these.
Awesome, yeah.
So she's going to be playing Pilbeam, and Miss Pilbeam is a character who takes care of Stella, and she's sort of like a person to make sure that Stella she's a paid accompanist, so that Stella is not going to be without a chaperone. So she's paid by her father.
She's almost like an assistant or something to keep her out of trouble.
Exactly. Keep her out of trouble, or just inform the father of what's going on.
Yeah.
So and she's also, at least in this one, she ends up, there's a person that comes on board who is Count von Dietrichstein, which actually, if you look at the name, it says Diet Rich Stein. So, you know, but they say it differently. So anyway, he is a guy who's looking for one of the characters on the ship, but apparently the Otto has a history with Miss Pilbeam because they knew each other like 20 years ago, and they had a bit of an affair of some sort. So it's quite interesting the way the guys interact. There's a lot of people who are kind of like, the best to describe them is their cult. They're kind of a cult in terms of like, they all want to do these shows.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Everyone's interests are peaked around these Jeeves shows. It sounds like yours more than anybody's.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem is that, you know, I would like to be in the show, but if you don't get somebody to direct them, they don't get done. So
yeah.
I always get the short straw, so I have to direct the plays. So anyway, she was able to find and bring some of the people from her first production over in Jackson, and that guy who also came is John Lamb, and John Lamb is also lives in Ann Arbor, but he was in a production with her over in the Jackson. So he played, he played a character in there. I don't know if he played Jeeves or not, but he's playing Jeeves in our production. He's playing Birdie in our production. So John Lamb is playing Birdie, and he's doing a great job with it. We're just amazing. He has a lot of physical activity, a lot of physical character and presence, and he really knows the understanding of the timing and the comic timing. I have a really good cast. It's really good.
Well, and you know that I like that you mentioned that, because that is like a real skill. Even like when you watch people professionally that are getting paid to act, and I'm like, this person has no comedic timing. They're like really bad at this. Or you're like, this person is awesome. They really, and it's like not even a great joke, but they'll get you to laugh every time because they know how to deliver the joke.
Yes, exactly. And John does a great job of this. But somebody who just really blew me away at her ability is Brittany Battelle. And she came in, and we're so lucky to have her. Now she's done a lot of work with Ann Arbor Civic. and she also was with Brass Tacks, but she also did Shakespeare in the Arb. So she came in and she like just had the part, just had the character like run from the bat, and she's so good. It's almost like I don't think she's British at all, but you couldn't tell. She's like so funny, so such a good at instinctually doing this, and I was so happy to have her. And she plays Stella, who is the there are two very smart people on the stage. Stella's smart and Jeeves is smart. And she's playing like the mischievous character who's just edging things along, and she's very good. She gets the best lines, and yeah, it's just like and she's always playing off Birdie. Birdie's always trying to get her to marry him. And she says, I'm mulling it over." It's like, and she's really good. And just Brittany, um, I'm she either saw the show, I think, from she was one of the people in the audience that saw the Jeeves Intervenes and wanted to do the show. So she's very good. And I think there was another person that came, was actually from the show that I did, which is Chris Martin, and he is playing Jeeves. So he actually played the general in the one that I had, but he, once again, Veronica was able to contact him, and he came up for the audition, and we were able to get him again. And he's just doing a brilliant job as Jeeves. He works so well with John as Birdie, and they're just having a ball doing this stuff. So it was fun that I actually have like 3 people who had already done Jeeves productions.
Yeah, and it sounds like
and
your
then
cast has a lot of chemistry.
Oh my God, it was like on the first day. I think, sometimes the director goes in and he feels like, well, I'm going to have to work really hard and do this, and then what I felt like at that moment when I saw the cast is I felt like a doctor. The phrase is do no harm, it's like, don't do anything to destroy the chemistry, and that's been my mantra the whole time. It's like, just keep them going and get them moving, and just don't destroy the chemistry. That's my, and then it's been actually building all the time. It's just getting much, everybody's getting really close. You're going to see it on stage. It's just a very, very tight.
I mean, good chemistry in a cast makes all the difference. You can feel it as an audience member when they have each other's backs, and they get more out of each other too. They get better performances when you have chemistry with somebody.
Exactly. And let me just mention Gary Dottie is his first time here to doing the Jeeves things, but he has also been a board member over at PTD, but he's done quite a few other productions. But he is going to play the Count von Richtstein. I can never pronounce the name. He would just call him Kato. But Jerry Dottie is doing a great job. He's doing he's having to be the only other guy who's doing the German accent. Everybody else is doing the British accent.
Oh yeah.
And he just kind of play Crumpet is Wyatt, and I worked with him in let's see, it was Anatomy of a Murder, and he played the killer, and I got to play the last guy in the scene, the guy who was working at who owned the trailer park where the guys pull out of. So, but I had a nice little scene. I had a nice one-liner, but he's doing a great job. He's got the energy. He's going to be very funny. I got him doing a lot of physical humor, and the thing is like, it's interesting that I like Woodhouse kind of over Noel Coward, because Noel Coward is kind of like sit and do line, sit line, where Woodhouse gives you an opportunity to do physical humor. I read a little bit about the history. I found out that Woodhouse kind of based these characters, Jeeves and Birdie, as sort of a opposite to Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson.
Sure, yeah.
So, because they're kind of set up the same way, but Birdie being the Dr. Watson, sort of like always appreciative of what Jeeves does for him. So it's very, very funny. It's very interesting writing, and the dialogue, and it's just at least in this production, it's Jeeves at Sea is basically their Jeeves and Birdie have gone to stay on this Vendée yacht, at the behest of Stella, who owns the yacht, and they're in Monte Carlo. The play takes place on the boat, and we're also doing a lot of entrances and exits. And so the problem is Crumpet gets into a situation where he may or may not have, depending on his drunkenness, he may or may not have murdered somebody. And so they're all trying to figure out what happened. And then in order to help Crumpet survive, he has to portray a fictitious twin.
Yeah.
His twin brother, who doesn't or does or may not exist in from Africa, and he was an adventurer in Africa. So we get to see two sides of Wyatt playing a role, and he's still Crumpet. So it's gonna be very fun. It's a lot of like, stuff inside and outside. It's also there's a lot of physical stuff for Birdie to do. And
When is the show? When can people go
when is
see
the
it?
show?
Yeah.
Oh yes, of course. The show is it's going to be the last week in February, first week in March. The dates are February 24th, and for the first week, February 24th, 25th, 26th, and those will be at 8 o'clock at night. So that's the third Friday, and then there'll be a matinee on Sunday on the 27th. And then on Wednesday, the 2nd, there'll be another matinee in the afternoon. And then Thursday, the 3rd, Friday the 4th, and Saturday the 5th will be the last of the 8 o'clock shows. So you can see those on all those days.
A lot of, and Thursdays are pay what you can, always with PTD.
Yeah, I
And
believe
like
so.
you said earlier, bring your vaccination card because they're going to want to check it at the door, right?
Exactly. Going to see the vaccination card, and that would be definitely worthwhile bringing. And of course, bring a mask. Bring a mask.
Always, anytime you go in somewhere. Before we go, we're almost out of time, but why don't you just tell people why they should come check out Jeeves at Sea and see PTD's first production back on the stage at Riverside Arts Center?
Well, it's just you're not gonna, you'll walk in, you're gonna laugh until you stop coming. I mean, until you basically, it's gonna be 90 minutes of laughs. And I think you want to come because it's the beginning of the end of this pandemic, and I think you're going to enjoy it. And there's going to be a group thing coming together. And I just think that the overall, just being able to experience the dialogue of P.G. Woodhouse and the excitement, and it's just, this is such a good cast. I just can't tell you how much, but just the story is so much fun, and I think you're going to enjoy it again. So,
all right, well, thank you. For more on this and other programs, visit a2gov.org/CTN. Visit youtube.com/CTN Ann Arbor to see all that we have to offer. And remember to like, subscribe, and ring that notification. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time to FYI.